There are blockbuster announcements. And then there are moments that feel like the industry just shifted. Let me say this carefully. We've seen alien films before. We've seen first contact stories. But the question this film is asking isn't, are we alone? It's something far more unsettling. What happens the day we find out we're not? Because Disclosure Day isn't built around invasion or spectacle. It's built around revelation. If someone stood in front of you and proved, undeniably, that humanity is not alone in the universe, would you feel wonder, or would you feel fear? That's the emotional engine Spielberg is revving up here. And for him, this is a return to familiar territory. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Eat, the War of the Worlds. He's walked this road before, but this time feels different. More restrained, more grounded, more politically aware. Emily Blunt leads the cast, and that alone signals something serious. Alongside her are Josh O'Connor, Coleman Domingo, Colin Firth, Wyatt Russell, and Eve Hewson. That's not a popcorn ensemble. That's a prestige lineup. The screenplay comes from David Koepp, adapting a story conceived by Spielberg himself. And if that collaboration sounds familiar, it should. Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds. When those two lock in, they don't aim small. The first teaser dropped in December alongside Avatar Fire and Ash screenings, which was a strategic move. Capture the Sci-Fi audience while they're already seated. And then came the billboards in Los Angeles and New York. 3 words. Everything will be revealed. No title, no explanation, just tension. And here's where it gets interesting. Spielberg had just earned his first Grammy thanks to John Williams' score involvement in the film's production cycle, officially securing EGOT status after his Oscar, Emmy, and Tony wins. That timing wasn't accidental. The campaign momentum started building quietly before the Super Bowl push. Now let's talk strategy. The 2026 Super Bowl, airing on NBC and streaming on Peacock, is not just a football game. It's the single most expensive advertising arena in the world. Studios don't drop money there unless they believe they have something that can dominate conversation. So why did Universal spend that kind of money on Disclosure Day? Because the awareness numbers weren't where they needed to be. Greenlight analytics tracking service The Quorum measures early awareness for upcoming releases. Spider-Man Brand New Day currently sits at 63% awareness. Avengers Doomsday is at 54%. Those are top-tier numbers. Disclosure Day, 16%. That places it 47th out of 80 to tracked films. And for a big-budget Spielberg summer release, that's not just low, it's concerning. Now, to be fair, this was partially by design. Universal and Spielberg kept this project extremely secretive during production. Unless you follow industry trades closely, you probably didn't even know this movie existed until December 2025 when the marketing finally began. And even then, they launched with mysterious billboards that didn't even reveal the title. In today's climate, especially when your story revolves around a massive secret, restraint is refreshing. Audiences appreciate not being overfed plot details. But here's the problem. Mystery builds intrigue. It doesn't automatically build awareness. And with a nationwide release set for June 12, 2026, there is an endless runway to generate heat. That's why the campaign shifted toward high-visibility moments. Avatar screenings, then the Super Bowl trailer. Because for this film to break through, people need to know it exists. And let's be honest, this summer is stacked. The theatrical market is still tightening. Audiences are selective. If the general public doesn't register that Disclosure Day is coming, it risks becoming that serious Spielberg movie people catch later on streaming instead of in theaters. That would be a mistake, because thematically, this film is aiming higher than spectacle. It revolves around a single defining moment, Disclosure Day, a global event where hidden truths are made public. What those truths are, who controls them, and how humanity reacts form the backbone of the narrative. But the film doesn't rush answers. It unfolds slowly, carefully. Tension builds organically instead of relying on jump scares or loud action beats. The first act establishes unease. Something is coming. Institutions feel it. Individuals feel it. But no one is prepared. The second act fractures trust. Governments, scientists, media figures, civilians, Everyone interprets the truth differently. By the final act, the confrontation isn't between humans and aliens. It's between truth and consequence. And that's where the film becomes uncomfortable in the best way. Because Disclosure Day isn't asking whether transparency is good. It's asking whether humanity is ready for it. When the truth threatens global stability, who decides what the public deserves to know? Is transparency always morally superior? What happens when information becomes the most dangerous currency on Earth? In an era dominated by data leaks, whistleblowers, artificial intelligence, and information warfare, those questions hit hard. The film feels less like speculative fiction and more like a projection of current anxieties. Emily Blunt's character isn't framed as a traditional hero. She's caught between duty, fear, and conscience. Her performance, from what we've seen, relies on restraint rather than dramatic monologues. Silence, hesitation, moral calculation. That grounded approach strengthens the emotional credibility of the film. The supporting cast represents different ideological standpoints. Government officials guarding stability, media figures chasing exposure, scientists wrestling with responsibility, civilians navigating fear. No one is purely right. No one is purely wrong. Motivations are shaped by ambition, survival, protection, and control. And that moral ambiguity elevates the material. Visually, the direction avoids flashy spectacle. The aesthetic leans into muted palettes, controlled camera movement, carefully composed frames. Urban settings feel sterile and impersonal. Private spaces are shadowed, tense. The focus remains on ideas, and that's what makes the June 12th release date bold. It's positioned against Scary Movie 7, a broad comedy franchise. On paper, that might seem risky, but strategically, it signals confidence. These films aren't competing for the same audience. One promises laughs, the other promises discomfort. Disclosure Day isn't designed for passive entertainment. It demands attention, thought, discussion. And that might limit its appeal among younger audiences looking for lighter summer fare. But for viewers who appreciate intelligent political thrillers, grounded sci-fi, and morally complex storytelling, this could be one of the most compelling releases of 2026. If the marketing campaign successfully boosts awareness, this film has the potential to dominate conversation in a very different way than a superhero blockbuster. Because instead of asking, "Can we win?" it's asking, "Can we handle the truth?" That's a heavier question, and honestly, that's what excites me most about this project. Spielberg returning to large-scale science fiction isn't the headline. The headline is that he's using that scale to explore fear, authority, and ethical responsibility in a world already overwhelmed by information. If the Super Bowl trailer lands the way Universal hopes it will, we could see a serious shift in public awareness over the next few months. And if that awareness converts into curiosity, Disclosure Day might not just be another summer release. It might be the conversation starter of 2026. Disclosure Day opens nationwide on Friday, June 12, 2026. And whether you see it as a thriller, a political allegory, or a speculative warning, one thing is clear: this isn't just about aliens, it's about us. I'll be watching closely to see whether audiences lean into the discomfort or retreat towards safer spectacle. Either way, this summer just got a lot more interesting. Stay sharp, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.